Now it's time for the topic everyone really wants to talk about, the World Series. The Red Sox won for the first time since 1918 at home in Fenway Park. If you weren't there, you were probably watching on Fox, and you couldn't miss all the advertising for Fox Sports 1. As Erica Moore reports, it's a cable station that could rival ESPN for the first time.
When you think of sportscasting, there are probably 4 letters that come to mind. ESPN.
I mean, we heard
The award-winning network dotes former professional players for anchors.
might change a little bit of that momentum.
But is the spotlight fading on the 2-decade-old network?
Buster, what are you most looking forward to this offseason?
A column in The Atlantic says it is and lists 5 reasons why the network could fade away to static. The reasons include the internet, the cost of cable, other major networks, and ESPN itself.
So how do you kind of just handle all that?
Fox Sports 1 broadcast of the World Series, and they were all over the games, putting limitations on the media post-games, and the photographer in this maroon vest ran third base every single game. He is in a lot of pictures. So is this the end of an era for ESPN, or should the network and will the network reinvent itself?
Please join us on Baseball Tonight after the game as we look back and look ahead to
For
Game
Press
4 of the
Party,
Cardinals
I'm Erica
and the
Moore.
Dodgers.
Now, ESPN has a 30-year head start, and they make $6.5 billion in revenue, not including advertising. So, Dr. Bob, does Fox Sports 1 have a chance?
Well, yeah, it's going to take them a while, but they certainly do. The ESPN started out with almost nothing. It was called Entertainment and Sports Programming, really, nightly. And what happened is they would have things like on Australian rules football, because they didn't have any contracts with any of the majors,
Right.
and their first big contract, I believe, was college basketball that helped put them on the map. So much so that they repeated their programming on a cycle basis, and it was called essentially the same programming nightly is what people used to dub it in the media. But what happened was they were able to build their brand and to the point where they used the revenue from the fees in order to get rights fees. And rights fees are the biggest expense now in terms of television programming. So and Fox already has some built-in advantages because the parent company has Major League Baseball, has National Football League, which
They
is
already
the
own
biggest
the
one.
rights to a lot
Right.
of
So they're going to have
sports.
automatically connections with that programming.
I think it's going to be very tough to make a dent in ESPN. They have such a head start, as you said, and people, it's the most powerful media empire really
Yes.
anywhere, and that includes, anything at all. CBS, any of the major networks. It's amazing how powerful they are and how much revenue they get. So I don't think they're going to make a dent in it, but they do have a chance, I think, to create a niche for themselves because Fox has the advantage of already having the World Series, the Super Bowl, things like that.
It was no mistake that they chose to do it in the year that they had the Super Bowl.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So they have an advantage over other sports networks out there because, TBS has baseball, I guess,
Right.
but they have an advantage over others. So I think they're going to do pretty well. And their big thing is personalities in Fox. And if they develop some personalities the way ESPN has, I think they'll do pretty good. There seems to be an unending demand for sports out there, 24-hour sports. The Golf Channel, look at the Golf Channel. It does amazingly well, and that's golf.
I mean, I'd argue, though, I know this isn't the Fox Sports Network, but if they're going to bring, I know McCarver's out, but if they're going to have
Yeah.
Buck and those people, the Red Sox fans are not going to be pleased.
No.
If they continue to have those two talking about things. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I like the idea of having some competition for ESPN, although it was really interesting reading about how basically it's true. People don't even care what programming is actually on ESPN. They'll just go to ESPN knowing that they're likely to find something that's going to entertain them.
Because they do have they have so many networks now. ESPN 1, 2,
Right.
3, God knows how many they have now. ESPN U and all kinds of
Well, and Sports
offshoots.
Center, right? Wasn't that? I
And
mean,
Sports Center, is
huge.
what
The
people
original-
really.
Sure, that's the
people
original program.
Yeah, because you can
Absolutely.
go on there and basically find out what's going on in sports now. And ESPN is so powerful that local TV their coverage of sports has really gone down because they can't really compete against that. By the time people watch the sport. If you really want to watch
They
what's
know
going on in
everything.
sports, go watch ESPN. It's really cut into, I think, local TV's ability to cover sports that way.
Yeah,
And
that
give
and
scores.
things
They don't
like
give scores anymore.
That and local, like the local sports channels and the local
Yeah.
Nessons also have cut into that. But you're absolutely right. Major local television stations used to cover a lot of sports.
Yeah.
Now their segment is down much because there's no money to be made for it because everybody's watching SportsCenter and the Dunk of the Week and all those kind of things. The thing about ESPN that is amazing is the way they've branched off and tentacled off into a variety of different things, right? Including all their sub-channels, ESPN News, etc. So they've really taken the concept and run with it. Fox has a chance. They're never going to. They're never going to be number one.
Not even
But
in 30 years from
But
now?
well, and who knows? 30 years. For 30 years from now, we probably
doubt
won't
it.
have TV. It'll be all in our glasses. But what's going to happen, I think, is that they are going to erode some of ESPN. And at the same time, everybody who has rights fees is going to get a little bit more money because there's more competition now for the rights fees, right? There'll be more bidding.
And I think one of the reasons people love ESPN is because they have an attitude and an identity that other sports
Right.
networks don't. They're very irreverent. They have their personalities are pretty funny. I mean, Keith Olbermann started
Right.
there,
Right.
And he's back. They
yeah,
brought him back
Yes.
right, and he's
Yep.
back, and so
And then Craig.
Yes, Craig Kilborn was on there. So they got people who just weren't good for sports, that they were actually funny on their own.
And Fox
So
is good at that.
Fox is not. I don't think they're
You know?
as good. No.
No, I wouldn't say they're as good, but they are certainly good at finding
try.
personalities. Yeah.
Right. And I think maybe if they integrated some of their Fox News personalities into the
Right.
sports, it might not be a bad idea. I think to try to integrate those together, because people love that about
No,
Fox.
do you remember Rush Limbaugh in the Monday Night Football?
It was a
So
disaster.
that was a disaster.
Yeah.
You have to be very
Oh, what
careful
about
that.
the Saturday Night Live guy, Dennis? He was
Dennis
terrible.
Miller. Dennis
Dennis
Miller.
Miller.
He
That
was
was not
terrible
good.
too.
Yeah,
That
he
was
was
not
awful
good.
too.
Yeah, so there are
Yeah.
limits. I agree to this.
Well, they launched in August, so we just saw the World Series, and we'll see the Super Bowl, and we will see nonstop advertising for Fox Sports 1. Thank you to our panel. If you're watching, leave a comment right here. Tell us where you're watching your sports, and stay here on BostonHerald.com for our media fail of the week.